Hello, everyone, and welcome to HP Critical, a podcast where me and my friends talk about all things gaming. I'm your host to this week, Brandon, and I'm joined by Jerel.
Hi.
This topic we're going to be talking about today is kind of an interesting one. As of this recording, yesterday there was a new Sony State of Play, the final one for 2019. In fact, followed on the same day, no less, by an Indie World Nintendo Direct. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Not those two specifically, but in general, we're going to be talking about State of Plays and Nintendo Directs, I suppose. So Nintendo, they've been doing their Directs for a while now. I'm going to say, I think one of the earliest ones, like either 2013, 2014. It was a nice way of delivering these short videos a few times over the year. Information direct to us, that's why they're called Nintendo Directs, about upcoming like games, or maybe they'll do a specific game-based one. And that became very popular, to the point now a whole bunch of companies are doing it. Most notably, Sony's doing their State of Plays, which is very much the same concept, based on upcoming products for Sony. Xbox does it to kind of a limited degree with the Inside Xbox thing, and Stadia before it came out was doing the Stadia Connects. But basically, we're going to be focusing on the two main ones, Nintendo Directs and the Sony State of Play. And we're going to be basically talking about what makes them good objectively and what makes them good subjectively. So we're going to start with objectively. And Jerel, in your opinion, what makes a good, either or, it doesn't matter, Nintendo Direct or State of Play, what makes them good to you objectively speaking?
So there are a few things that I look for whenever I'm watching a State of Play or a Direct or any one of those things. The biggest one is for brand new. I think one of the ways to judge the success of these are giving us brand new things that we're not going to see anywhere else. And I think that's why Nintendo Directs do so well. Just because, I won't go into details yet, but Nintendo's always just throwing a bunch of stuff at us, and usually at least half of it is brand new.
It's true.
So I think, like I said, one of the biggest things is showing us brand new things. Also, of course, fan service. Anything that can give us what we want is always a good thing. I think being concise and being detailed are also very important, because if if the PlayStation presentation State of Play is just a bunch of stuff with no release dates, it's not as great as something that Nintendo would put out that has coming this fall or something like that. So I think being concise, because nobody wants to sit there for no one ever wants to go through the whole Nintendo reveal where we had Rapid Galarian Ponyta with that 24-hour stream just for that.
Yeah, that was an interesting way to announce it for sure.
So nobody wants to go through that. So, concise is important, and detail-oriented and new.
Okay, that's good. So, yeah, basically, a lot of what I think is a good objective State of Play or Direct or what have you, very, very similar. Reveals, like new stuff, that gets people talking, because no one really knows what to expect out of these things. Nintendo's been doing it for a while, so they've gotten into a good formula about it, because there's been some not so great directs, and there's been some amazing directs, and not even all of that doesn't even necessarily have to do with what they showed. It's how they formatted it. I think that ever since they started doing the whole slideshow or broadcasting, where it's kind of like slides to the next topic, I think that's been the best thing for it, because it helps with it being concise, like you mentioned. They're less likely to spend too much time on it if they need to get to the next part of the presentation, going down the list onto the side there. And I noticed that with their most recent State of Play, they started doing that as well, where it's just like one little logo, and then when they're done talking about it, they move on to the next. I think that's a very good way to do it, because it doesn't spoil necessarily what's coming next, while also bringing excitement to what's, like, how many things do they have? How long is this going to be? It's interesting because then, concise. Exactly. You put it out greatly. They need to not spend too long on it, because people have different interests. I think a good Direct or State of Play has a variety of stuff for consumers while keeping it concise. And the only real difference to that is we're going to get into that into our subjective one for sure. But, surprises. if there's a hotly anticipated game, it's definitely to your benefit to like give some more information about it. I guess the more they want to focus on it, the more time they spend. Nintendo will sometimes with their direct say, hey, tune into this direct with special gameplay about Mario Tennis Aces. That tells you right off the bat there's going to be a little more talked about Mario Tennis Aces than normal. So you're expecting that, and expectations are an important part of it as well. But I guess with that being said, surprises, keeping things concise, having a nice variety of things. Let's go into what we think makes a good subjective one. Jerel, you told me a little bit before the podcast that your objective and subjective is almost the same, if not exactly the same. But can you elaborate that a little more?
Yeah. I look for the same things that I mentioned objectively, right. And I think that is what makes me so excited about seeing a State of Play or a Nintendo Direct. It's always, I think Nintendo is one of the, I think they really set the bar with how these are supposed to go, because like I mentioned, they do a very good job at showing us brand new stuff all the time. And a lot of times, one of the things that I love about Nintendo is that whenever they show us one of these, everything that we're gonna get pretty soon. I think they do a stellar job. That's true. At this is, we can look at Pokemon. I don't remember the exact details right now, but we saw a direct with the starters in the same year that we got the game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Oh yeah, yes, we did, and Smash was a similar thing. It's funny. I just referenced that direct about the Mario Tennis Aces. That was the direct where they announced that Smash existed. Like everyone was just like, everyone was like, oh well, Mario Tennis Aces. If you were excited for that game, then you were invested regardless. But if you weren't and you just wrote off the direct, it's like, oh well, it'll probably be okay. It'll spend a lot of time Mario Tennis, and then Smash. I'm like, woo, that's the one I couldn't watch live, and I was so mad that I missed that reveal live. But anyways.
It was really amazing. I personally I'm very excited about new things because, we obviously get Nintendo Directs for E3, and with E3 seemingly going out the door as the years go by, this is all we have to look forward to. And I think Sony stepping out of E3 was a great idea, and focusing more on the State of Play was also a great idea because they didn't have enough to show at this year's E3, but we still got, things that we were looking forward to. I think one of their best State of Plays was Final Fantasy VII. And
I agree.
Like the reveal of that, and even this last one, had it not been leaked, we would have gotten Resident Evil 3 remake and Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC with the addition of Final Fantasy characters in it, and it would have blown up the internet. So I think that they've been progressively getting better at showing the audiences hype items, and giving us little tidbits of what we're looking forward to. So I think that is a pretty big thing that I look for subjectively. Brand new stuff, which includes remakes. Like this last State of Play would have been amazing had I not already seen the leaks.
Right,
because
exactly.
that was all. Even though the Kingdom Hearts stuff is just DLC, it was brand new. Like we hadn't heard or seen any of this stuff before. So that, and Nintendo just keeps, throwing it out of the park with such unexpected stuff. I think unexpected is also a really big deal because there are a bunch of indie titles in these directs that no one is, like the Cadence of Hyrule. Like what?
Yeah.
What was that? Panzer Dragoon. I know people love that game apparently. What is that? It's just a bunch of, I hate to use the word nonsense because that's not what I think it is, but it's just, it could be anything. Effie Encore. What is?
Oh, Tokyo Mirage Session.
Yes,
Sharp
thank you.
FE.
Yes, what? We're getting that for Switch now, and we found out in a.
Oh my god, I'm so happy this comes to Switch. But anyway,
these are all. That's amazing. So yeah, I think subjectively and objectively are pretty much the same thing for me. Brand new things, being concise, because please don't make me watch another 24-hour stream for one Pokemon. I think that was the worst part of marketing for Sword and Shield that they did, because I love the rest of the marketing. So being concise, being detail oriented, and showing off brand new things.
For sure. So subjectively, I guess for me, Come to think of it, a lot of it is kind of similar to me. But the only reason why I would even say so is because not this state of play, not the one that just aired, but the one before that, the one that kind of ended with Last of Us Part 2 at last, finally getting like gameplay, and then the release date, which got delayed a week later. But anyways, the reason why is because that state of play did absolutely zero for me personally, besides The Last of Us Part 2. But I still felt it was a good state of play. It did everything exactly as, I think a state of play should. They put out a bunch of game announcements. They kept it very concise. They showed that a lot of stuff's coming. And it wasn't too long a state of play either. And then they started off with a new project that no one knew about. And then they ended off with something that I know a lot of people were looking forward to. So everything about it was screamed, yeah, this is a good state of play. But I didn't really care. And that's why, and I felt bad for not caring, but it was that's how I felt about it. I like the way I felt, like, for the first time in my life. I think I understood. I felt myself into the mindset of someone that hated a direct that I personally loved. And what we were talking about as far as like what makes a good direct is like having a nice variety of stuff. I love that about directs. Even if I'm not going to play like half of the games that are on the Nintendo Direct, I'm still happy that they exist. There's a wide variety of stuff out there. You have like live sim games with like Animal Crossing. You got your RPGs. You got your platformers with like Mario. If depending on what year you're watching it, and you may even get some Legend of Zelda stuff, for example. Just like give examples, and of course, third-party stuff as well. You'll probably get the greatest variety within the third-party games coming to Switch, especially since everything is coming to Switch these days. It seems like you'll probably get an announcement of a surprise port that you never thought was coming. Jedi Outcast coming to Switch, for example. Who saw that coming? But that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's a wide variety of stuff from ports to different genres to whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And, like, State of Play was the same thing. So, like, I'm asking myself almost as much as I'm asking you, why didn't I appreciate it when they did it with Sony? I have a PlayStation 4. I play games on that. Like, it's weird to think about.
I don't know if you remember, but I spoke on this in our chat because I thought that one was great. And I mentioned,
did too.
And I mentioned that I think a lot of people were going into it with an expectation of Nintendo Direct as opposed to a state of play, and I was very kind of sad and disappointed that everyone didn't love it as much as I did, because I actually loved that Direct. I thought that they did a really good job at showing us brand new things that we hadn't seen before. We got oh my god, what was that game in the beginning with Humanity? It was called Humanity.
Yes, Humanity, that's what it was called. Yes, thank you.
We got Humanity, which, like, I was like, what is this? Everyone was kind of like buzzing about what is this. It ended up being a game because we got it for the advertisement, and then it ended up being a game. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Brand new title from a studio that we've known before, so that was interesting. We got Call of Duty. Obviously, Call of Duty is always a great one. Modern Warfare's campaign, which looked amazing. The trailer for Modern Warfare looked really, really good. So that was a big highlight. That's a big game, a big highlight of the state of play, depending, of course, if you play that type of game. There was Arise, which looked really interesting. It was another one of those indie titles. And then we had the Death Stranding PS4 Pro bundle, which was beautiful. I was freaking out when I saw it. And then we got the PlayStation Plus lineup, which I don't remember exactly what was mentioned in it at the time.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think I know it was The Last of Us Remastered was one of them.
Yes, you're right. That was definitely one.
I don't remember what the second thing was, but that's also a really big one. I know you can get it for super cheap, but now, obviously, if you're signed up for PlayStation Plus, you get it for free, which led up to the big Last of Us 2 footage, which everyone had been waiting for. So I think, like, it had big titles. You got Call of Duty, you had Last of Us, it had indies, it had new games, it was concise, we got information, we got a release date. I don't know why it wasn't as hyped as I feel like it should have been. And I of course, it can obviously just be interest, because I can say the same thing about Nintendo Directs. Like, I watch Directs with everyone, and I'm just like, guys, this is just a bunch of NDs and a bunch of remakes, and they're not things that I'm interested in. I think the last two State of Plays, this one and the one before, have been better than the Nintendo Directs. Just because I don't care about Luigi's Mansion. Sorry.
No, you're good, and I think that's a good, interesting point too, because like I think a large part of like regardless of its quality, whether you like it or not, is really just going to depend on what you want to see. It's a hit or miss for some people, because the benefits of both State of Plays and Directs is it's a wide variety of stuff. Even if it's a game you really, really like, it may overall be not a great. Like I remember Toby back E3 when they had that E3 that was all about Smash. Now I personally, we're talking pure subjective, I loved it because I love Smash.
Yeah, me too.
But if you don't like Smash, that might have been the worst E3 presentation you've ever watched.
And you know what? It wasn't even that he didn't like Smash. He just thought that they spent way too much time on Smash. And that is another thing that I have a problem with some of Nintendo Directs. Some of the Nintendo Directs. Because it can seem very weird when they're like, we're going to give you 15 minutes of Pokemon. And then it's like, I think the first one was 10 or 15 minutes of the reveal of the starters. And then that was it. And, I personally don't mind that, but I know people that were just that was kind of pointless. And I get that. So I think Nintendo Directs have a weird way that they sit with the way that they're set up, because sometimes it'll be 30 minutes. The Terry Smash presentation was 45 minutes. And then you have a Pokemon one for 15 minutes. You got Animal Crossing for 10 minutes. It's so weird, because sometimes it doesn't feel like we get enough information,
and sometimes feel like you get too much. But
yeah, exactly.
But that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, though. Just because what I meant earlier when I said Nintendo's been getting better with their directs, aside from their format, is also how they announce it. Like, for example, the ones where they specifically go out of the way to say, and a specific game in there, you'll know right off the bat that it's going to have an extended thing on it. So that helps expectations, because if you just go in raw saying, tune in for a new Nintendo Direct at 40 minutes or whatever, and then you get 15 minutes on one game, it's like, well, no one told me I was going to be spending this much time on this one game I didn't care about. I'll give you a good example. There was a Direct, I don't know if they had announced this beforehand, but they spent about 10 minutes on Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, if they had announced that it was going to spend that much time, then at least people understood that. But if you didn't care about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, you're just sitting there like, when's the next thing? You know what I'm saying? And that's a large part of it. And with the Terry thing you're talking about, they announced that, hey, after this presentation, we got a whole spread on Terry. If you want to watch that, you can watch it. If you don't care, then you can do something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think that was a bad thing. I think it was very smart to say, "Hey, this is going to be 45 minutes of Terry." And of course, the internet was like, "Oh, maybe they're going to show off the new thing, because there's no way that we could spend 45 minutes talking about a Smash character." Wrong. We spent 45 minutes talking about a Smash character.
And the history of SNK.
Exactly.
And the 30 cameos on the stage, and no one knew why it was going to be 40 minutes, and then you find out why. It's like, oh wow,
yeah,
Sakurai just loves SNK, and that's why it was 40 minutes.
And all of the time was spent, and I think that's cool. I believe that Sony has taken the formula, and they're getting better and better at it, and
they are.
Nintendo's getting a little stale at it. This is obviously just my own opinion. Just because sometimes... no, never mind. I actually am going to retract what I just said. I take that back.
Getting stale, or...
I take back everything I just said. I think Sony has been improving on the formula, and I think Nintendo has also been improving on the formula a little bit. I don't know what is considered a direct now. I guess everything. I guess, 10 minutes of Pokemon, and then 15 minutes of every brand new game coming to the Switch. Those are obviously two very different calibers of directs, but they're all in the same category. So it's very weird to judge them just based on the fact that they can be anything.
That's another layer I want to talk about. But before I go into that, has Sony as of yet done a state of play that was focused on a game? That was to
No.
focus on one game.
No.
They have not. Okay. That's something that I think that's something that they should absolutely look into doing. Doing a state of play on an upcoming game that is, like a full blowout, or maybe not a full blowout, but you know what I'm saying. Like, give a little time to it, because Nintendo, for their bigger games, have absolutely done that, where they know a big game is big, so they'll be like, tune in to this direct for this game that's coming out. We know you want to hear about. Smash has had many directs to themselves because they know it's a big game, but sometimes they'll do that for a game that no one knows what the hell it is. Like during the 3DS era, they had a Tomodachi Life direct. And people were like, what the hell is Tomodachi Life?
Yeah.
And they went to go watch. That, by the way, is one of their best directs. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Even that game, I dropped it after like a few weeks, but that direct is a treat to watch. But it's stuff like that. Like, I think those are the strongest ones, where they do a direct based on this game that no one knows about, or no one doesn't know enough about. Because then expectations are like all out there. Like, what is this? What is this going to be? Whereas if you already know about a game, that's the other thing about like game-specific directs. I think most people that are going to watch those have already decided that they're going to buy the game. They just want to hear more information about it. Those kind of directs rarely sell anyone new on whether a game, because if they're not interested, then they may not even tune into the direct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that doesn't work for state of play. Only because, I think it'd be really cool if, PlayStation decided to do a deep dive into a single game. But then I also think of all the indies coming to PlayStation that don't have a place to be shown off, and they won't ever be shown off if they're not in a state of play.
It's true.
And then also, that brings me back still to the issue that some people have with the directs, when it's just like 10 minutes of Pokemon, is not enough for some people, I talked to people that were like, 10 minutes, what are you going to show? And then it was just literally like, information starters end. And to me, I was super hyped. Like, that was enough for me because I love Pokemon. But I also talked to people that were just like, I feel like that was a waste of time. Like, they could have, compiled that into a 30-minute one later on down the line, or, So obviously, it's subjective. Either you're going to like it or you're not. But I do think that Sony not doing one that is focused does allow them to focus on their VR, for example. A lot of the state of plays have a bunch of stuff about VR. They could just have a full VR state of play, but that would be weird because they're in a very particular position with VR, as in like they're the only real like big investment in VR, and you want to get as many people onto this VR train as possible, especially with the great sales that they had over Black Friday for the bundles. So people who are watching for The Last of Us or who are watching for Final Fantasy, every other game in there is free advertisement. So
exactly.
Like, of course I'm gonna want to put my VR games in the beginning of this right before Thanksgiving and get people to go out and buy, Black Friday VR and know that these are the games that they get to play, as opposed to just, I know that everyone's only going to watch this for Final Fantasy, so I'm only going to do Final Fantasy. So I think for PlayStation it works really well to not focus on a single one, whereas Nintendo, it works really well to focus on a single one because they have so many first party titles that people care about and that they love.
Yeah, you got a point.
So, and that's not to say that PlayStation doesn't, because of course, obviously PlayStation does as well. But Nintendo's is like we already know what these games are going to be. So I think that kind of separates the two. Yeah,
I agree. I guess, that's pretty much all there is to say about that. I guess we can kind of like, we do have one thing that we can end this discussion off of. So let's do it one by one, starting with the state of play. What do you think, Jerel, that people look for in a state of play? What do you think makes us, let's say someone loves PlayStation so much, what are they looking for in a state of play? And what do you think Sony could do better to make them happier?
I'm 100% about to contradict myself with this answer to this question, which is, I think that people look forward to specific games that they want to find out more about during a state of play, as in, Final Fantasy VII, The Last of Us 2, etc. Because on the last couple state of plays, that's all everybody talks about. Like, they all only watch for, the big titles that they want to hear about. What could Sony do to make things better? Do specific only FF7, only Last of Us, like, deep dives into the game, like, how it's created, what we're looking forward to, screenshots, video, etc. Basically do exactly what I said they shouldn't do. Because that's what people want. And, I completely understand that's what people want. Aside from, like, a business standpoint, yeah, of course we want to watch, 30 minutes of Final Fantasy VII Remake and having the producers dive into exactly what it is, seeing new footage, etc. So, doing what I said they shouldn't, pretty much.
Yeah. No, for Sony, I guess I more or less agree. Like, Sony players, like, there's a lot of good Sony first party IPs, and there's a lot of just big games that have a strong affinity to Sony as well. Like, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake, that's a timed exclusive to Sony for a full year before it'll likely go to, like, Xbox or PC and what have you. So that's pretty much a Sony property as of currently, at the very least. So yeah, people, if you're a Sony fan, then I'm sure you're just gonna want to see Last of Us 2. You're gonna want to see your Final Fantasy 7. You want to see your, I don't know, Uncharted 5 or whatever, the sequel to God of War, because there has to be a sequel after the way that first game ended, or not first game, but the first game of the pseudo reboot. But anyway, yes, they want to see more of that. That'll make them happier if they can just get those for a little bit longer, those gameplay stuff that they really want. A lot more people have VRs. Yeah, no, so objectively, I think they're doing just fine, because while they're looking for what they really want, they may find something else that intrigues them as well. But they're probably just going to want to know more about the stuff they really care about. So, there you are. Now, and then Nintendo Directs. So, Jerel, subjectively, what do hardcore Nintendo stands want to see in these Directs? And you could talk about general Directs or game-specific Directs. And what do you think Nintendo could do to make them feel better about the Directs?
Hardcore Nintendo fans are getting exactly what they want. They love every Direct, no matter no matter what's in it. It can be crap, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my god, best Direct ever!" And I know from personal experience, because that's what you guys do. I watch a Direct, the same one that you guys watch, and I'm like, that was okay. And you're like, oh my god, that was amazing, look at this game. And I'm like, it was okay.
I feel so targeted.
I'm sorry. So I do think that...
I love it.
People are very happy with the way Directs go. Like, as I've mentioned before, it kind of is the standard that everyone else is following. So, of course, they're doing something right. I think to continue to appease their fans, I guess just keep doing what they're doing, because like I said, it's working out. I mean, for me, it would be actually no, I think they're, yeah, I kind of love what they do with the whole, we're going to tell you about something the same year that it's released, which is still, I think, one of my favorite things about Nintendo Directs. I guess I would like more structure from them. Which, as you mentioned before, they have improved on by, the sliding cards of like, okay, this is what's coming up.
Yes.
And then, they'll also do their rapid fire list of like, there's 10 games that you're going to get in the next like 2 months or whatever. And that's always good. Compilations, like, I think one of the most exciting things for me during the Direct was the, reveal of Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy X-2, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy...
that was fun. That was fun. That was great. That was a great moment.
Those unexpected, out of nowhere games and titles coming to the Switch, I think, are what really excites people. More so even than the first-party titles. Just because, obviously, we know we're going to get the first-party titles. That's why we bought a Switch. Like, of course I bought a Switch so I can play Mario Kart and, Mario Party and Zelda and Metroid Prime 4 whenever that comes out and, whatever. Like, that's the purpose. That's the point of me buying the Switch. I know that these games are coming. So I think what could make the Directs better is if they continue to do surprises. Like, at this point, everything is coming to Switch is, like, basically a real thing. It's like when we got The Witcher 3 announced for Switch, everyone was hyped about that, So to continuing just giving us these out of left field surprises, like Astral Chain out of nowhere, like, what? Platinum Games working on a game for the Switch? What? That's crazy. So yeah, I think just continuing on the, here's a bunch of surprise things that no one was thinking about that are coming this year. And I think that's also why the Smash character reveals are so popular right now. Not only because of the characters, but just because they've been so out of left field, or at least the first one. Like, nothing will ever top Joker's announcement in Smash. Not even the reveal of Smash, to me, was as impactful as Joker and the rest of the crew breaking into the Game Awards and mentioning that they're going to be the first DLC pack. Like, that, nothing has ever topped that for me. So things like, moments like that are why Nintendo continues to win, because that was just such a, like, no one had ever thought that Joker from Persona 5, which is still considered like a niche, game. Even like Fire Emblem is still considered a niche game, but we got directs for that. But anyway, yeah, just
literally never saw it coming.
It literally, like that. Wow, I still get chills. I was just mentioning on Twitter, I still get chills every time I watch that video. I'm just like, I cannot believe this.
Zach had trouble breathing after that announcement. It was so extreme.
It was so crazy. And then, of course, we get an announcement of Persona 5S coming to Switch.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things I'm talking about. Continue to surprise us with brand new titles coming to the Switch. And I know that was not, obviously, in a direct. That was separate, but...
but it's just topical.
Yeah, just like those, that continuing up with the surprise announcements, the surprises coming to Switch, the things that, the variety, continuing with the variety, because Nintendo is very good at, like, putting, Luigi's Mansion, and then Fire Emblem, and then Final Fantasy, and then some random indie, and, like, all of them will appeal to someone. Exactly. And I think that's kind of where they beat PlayStation, because like PlayStation's last direct was very, very much action adventure centered. So I guess if I were to talk about PlayStation, I guess I would say to widen their array if they have the games, which obviously they don't really, because they don't have very many co-op titles. So of course Nintendo's always going to win on that front. But yeah, just keep doing what they're doing and keep surprising us.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm more or less in agreement here. As far as, most Nintendo gamers love the directs, but of course, there's always these, the crazy ones who, if they're not getting a Legend of Zelda thing in every single direct, they're angry. If they're not getting their Mario and everything, they're angry. Like, I'm not gonna give any names specifically, but there's a YouTuber I used to watch who, if he didn't get anything about Mario, Zelda, or Pikmin in a direct, he called it a bad direct. And I was like, are you kidding me? Look at all this other, and then he's like, oh, Fire Emblem, that's just some anime RPG. I don't care. I was like, oh, God. So, yeah, if anyone's listening to this and knows who I'm talking about, you can tell us in the comments, see if you guessed right or whatever. But, there are some Nintendo fans who won't be satisfied unless they get their very specific things. But in general, it's exactly like you said. Most people, they like a wide variety of stuff on the Switch. And speaking of the Switch, they're in a very unique position because the Switch, is the first console that's like a major like hybrid, like, home console. You could take it, but you can also take it anywhere. So people are porting stuff to the Switch left, right, and center. They're in a position where ports are exciting just because of the prospect that there are some games that have never been handheld before, or at least not easily accessible in the handheld format. So even ports can be exciting now. It never used to be this exciting for something to get ported to Switch, but now it is.
Yeah,
like it's significant.
The Witcher 3 and Final Fantasy the Final Fantasy games are a great example.
Exactly. So some of those have never been portable, and now they are. So I know a lot of people disagree with me saying this, but I think more people are happy that these ports are coming, because they give people a new option to play a game that they ordinarily couldn't. And I gotta say this. There's one thing that they absolutely can tell on Nintendo fans want. Mother 3. Where the hell is Mother 3?
Okay.
I don't personally care, but that's just a meme I see that like people just really want their Mother 3. Yeah, if they do Mother 3, no one asks for anything ever again. There'll be world peace. That's the answer. Nintendo, you have the power to make world peace. Do it, because that literally the internet, every toxic city in the internet will just disappear if Mother 3 comes to Switch. Like all of it. The world, like world leaders that hate each other will just shake hands and realize, you know what, life is good. Global warming will disappear if Mother 3 comes to Switch. I'm saying it right here on this podcast.
Nintendo needs to make it happen.
Nintendo needs to make it happen. They have the keys to world peace. Anyway.
But and this is going to be super short, but that you brought up something that I think is also a problem because people judge the PlayStation State of Plays in that manner. Like, if it's not one of the big PlayStation titles that they're looking for, they kind of overlook everything else that's mentioned in these State of Plays. And sometimes they're like really good indies or like really interesting titles, like really cool PSVR stuff or this awesome bundle for Death Stranding that looked amazing. You know, the cinematics for Call of Duty that were beautiful. I think I have been waiting. I know you know, but I had been waiting for Babylon's Fall from Babylon's Fall for 2 years now. Or a year, however long ago it was first announced at, I think it was 2 years because it was at E3 2 years ago because Sony was at E3 the year before, or maybe it was Square Enix. I don't remember. No, yeah, I think it was 2 years ago. I have been waiting for something for that for forever. So for me, this was one of the best directs because I finally got information on it. Also I got Kingdom Hearts, and also I got Resident Evil 3 Remake, which is awesome for me because, we just talked about the last podcast. I just played 2 for the first time, so now I get to play 3 for the first time.
You get there. Going through Resident Evil.
That is, to me, was an awesome direct. Like, it didn't have one of those, like, Final Fantasy, Last of Us, anything for next year. It was Ghost of Tsushima. Oh my god.
Ghost of Tsushima.
That was in this one, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I guess that would have been the, I'm still getting through it, but that would have been the big, like, PlayStation focus for this one, I guess, I assume. And that is another one that, like, everyone was hype over since its reveal at E3. I mean, I'm still not over the fact that the leaves in that game look so beautiful, and so did the grass. I just want to play it because it's gorgeous. So, like, this direct to me was awesome. And anyone, who is just like you said with the Nintendo one, if it's not something that you're interested in, you just don't care. It kind of sucks because you should really give a chance to a lot of the things that they're showing off, which is why I kind of respect and like the fact that Sony doesn't just focus on one thing, because it gives us an opportunity to see so many other things. Like how many people got to see Babylon's Fall for the first time. And
exactly.
might have not been interested. It is literally Square Enix and Platinum Games, 2 of my favorite developers together making a game. Like, yes. I needed this since it was revealed. And I saw it and I was like, oh my god, this is like Astral Chain, but even better, because it's on PlayStation and it's beautiful. Like, oh my god. So yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to close this out on. The closing thought is basically that we all have different interests in what we want, what we don't want, and we're all gonna go into these directs or state of plays with expectations. That's just how it's gonna be. And if those expectations aren't met, it's easy to be a little bit disappointed. But I think the biggest takeaway that we could probably take from all of this is that you should go in with these things with an open mind. There's a lot of great games out there. You may find something that you weren't even looking for and then end up enjoying it. And if if there's a game that they show that you're interested in but might take forever, well, you know what? There's probably a whole bunch of other stuff that's coming out right now. That's another thing about some of these direct state of play. They sometimes have those it's out right now things, which are always a little nice thing. So you never know. There could be something that comes out that'll come out, maybe a few months before what you're waiting for that looks interesting, and then you'll have something to occupy your time with. Like, games are fun, people. Just play them and look for games that you enjoy if your backlog's not already too swamped like ours and pretty much everyone else on HP Critical. But, games are fun.
Exactly.
Don't stress. Don't stress. Okay. Yep. And with that, I think we're going to leave you guys for now. You guys can let us know in the comments of either the article or the social media, all that good stuff, what you look.
You can email us they can also email us at hpcriticalgaming@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us some emails. We'll read those. Yeah, we're interested in hearing what you guys look for when you're watching a state of play or a direct or the other things like Inside Xbox and what have you. And tell us some of your favorite directs or state of plays. We want to hear all that too. They've been doing it. Both of them have done a few of them so far. So we want to know what you guys care about, best moments, all that good stuff. But anyway, we're going to leave you guys for now. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time.
Bye.